Today I'm going to show you how to create a parallax animation using GSAP. I have a couple of animations going on here. The first one is the header, which moves faster than the rest of the page. Then we have the parallax animation on these images. And lastly, this fade in animation of the card. Okay, let's go. So now I have this basic setup here where there are no animations, just the basic files. I'll just give a quick overview. What is this? We have a main container, which is this black background you see. Then a header, which holds the p tag for our header. Then a cards element, which holds all of the cards, and a single card element. Now, this card element will act as a template. So I can create all of these cards dynamically using JavaScript and not have to rewrite the HTML code every single time. If you see, I have all these image URLs which I use to create these cards. Since I do not have to worry about the content of the p tag, I can use this method just like you would do in React or when you get information from the database. You use this for loop. I use this for loop to create all of these cards. So it just saves me a bit of time. And lastly, we have images. So the one thing I want to clarify before we begin is the parallax animation happens by moving the image. So for example, when you scroll down, everything goes up. The text, the content, everything you see goes up when you scroll down. But the images move down when you scroll down. So when everything is going up, the images will go down. And when everything is going down, the image will go up. So this creates a parallax effect, which is really interesting. And for that, we need the image to be bigger than this rectangle wrapper we have. If you see, the image is wrapped inside an card image wrapper element, and the aspect ratio of this element is determined by the card image wrapper, and the image tag is just position absolute. It does not define the width of this element. The width is defined by the wrapper. The image is way bigger than the wrapper, and we need the image to be bigger so that the image can move. If the image is the same size as the wrapper, then when the image move up or down, it will create a gap on the opposite direction. For example, if the image is of the same size as the wrapper and the image moves upwards, then it will create this huge empty space between it and it will break the animation. So we need to make the images bigger than the wrapper. But these images are clearly way too big. So we need some sort of variable to control this. And for that, I'm going to create a parallax scale. It will also determine the intensity of our animation, how strongly the images will move. If the image is very big, then image needs to move very fast so it can cover all of the ground. But if the image is very small, then the effect will be subtle. If you don't know what number to put it here, just bear with me, I will explain everything. So first of all, we need to resize every image. So for that, we are going to first make an array of all the card elements. For that, we can use the gsap.utils.toArray method. Oh, a typo here. Dot card. And now I'm going to loop over each card so I can change the height of all these images. I'm going to use GSAP's set method to do that. The original height is of course going to be 100%, the same as the wrapper. And then we have the parallax scale, which will determine how big the image will be. If you put 50, that it means the image is going to be 50% bigger than the wrapper. If you put in 100 as a parallax scale, then the final calculation will come as height is equal to 200%. Then it will mean that the image is twice as big than the wrapper. It will create a really strong parallax effect, which will be a bit uneasy. Now, if I run this, okay, we have an error for some reason. Oh, I didn't define the image. Okay, there we go. Now, you see these images are sort of out of focus. What do I mean? These dogs are clearly supposed to be in the center, yet they are in the right and upper right side corner. So for that, I'm going to center the images, and that's why we have used position absolute. so I can center these images inside the wrapper. A very simple solution is using left of 50%. I need to use as a string, and using x% of -50. You can set any element as position absolute, define left as 50%, and x translate x% -50%, and it will center the image. Nice. Okay, let's start animating. First of all, we need to create a timeline, and then we create a tooth pin. We'll use image as our target and select y% to be of parallax scale. I will also put an ease of linear, so our scrolling and the animation are in sync. And if I run this, you'll see the nice little animation. Okay, now it certainly looks weird. The image is sort of all over the place. Now we want the animation to be dependent on the scroll. We just don't want to play the animation when the site loads. So that's why we can use the scroll trigger plugin from GSAP. We'll define the trigger as the card. Always remember that you have to set the trigger as the parent of the element you are animating. In our case, we are animating the image, so I can assign the trigger as the image wrapper or the card, but I'm just going to use the card here. You can also use the image wrapper, it's up to you. And then we define the scrub property. Okay, our beautiful parallax animation is done, but we also need the fade in animation. So we are going to create another GSAP timeline. Now let's run this, and if you notice, the animation doesn't look smooth. It feels janky and something feels off here. Now what is it? Now what happens is the animation depends on the scroll, and the scroll is not smooth. So the animation is not going to be smooth either. So that's why we use a smooth scrolling animation library to smoothen the scroll. That way our animations will look much more refined. I'm going to use a library called Lenis. This is where I initialize Lenis using this function. I'm also going to bind it to scroll trigger animations, and let's run the initialize Lenis function. Now our animations are really smooth, and that's how you create this beautiful parallax animation. But we haven't animated our header yet, so let's just do that really quickly. To save your time, I just created the animation, and I will just explain what is going on. First of all, I just created a timeline just like we did with the parallax animation, set the scroll trigger and the trigger target as the header element. If you remember, the header is acting as a wrapper for our p tag. Then we set the header.children with a y of %-100. So it will double the speed of the p tag. So it means it will move twice as fast as the rest of the page and will create a nice animation. We need to run the header animation function so we get the nice and smooth animation. See, the header is moving really fast than the rest of the page, and our parallax animation is ready.